Hi, good morning. Welcome to Sparkle. Sparkle is a not for profit reaching out to all women to connect, inspire, and encourage through stories and testimonies of ordinary women that have a relationship with God. This morning, we have an extraordinary woman with us, Karen Ehman, and she is delightful. We have had her as a Sparkle speaker in the last few months, but she has decided to come on and talk to us a little further about maybe a God story or her testimony. She is an author of several books that you've probably heard of. Um, they are some that I haven't even read, but others that are wonderful. When Making Others Happy is Making You Miserable, is one she did discuss with us recently. And then she has one, Keep It Shut and Let It Go. And I mean, it goes on. So anyway, welcome, Karen. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background quickly and then go into your faith story.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I am from Michigan, born and raised here. I've never left. Went to college at Spring Arbor University, so was in Michigan for my college days too. Married my college sweetheart, and together we have 3 adult children, all of whom are now married. Our last one just got married, so now I like to say I have 6 children. And we have our first grandchild was born last year, and of course gets spoiled rotten by Grandma Kit and Pops. And that favorite thing to do is to hang out with family. I love to write and speak and encourage women to love their lives and live their priorities and reflect the gospel to the watching world.
Oh, wow. Well, we're happy to have you and you've taken time out of your busy schedule. I wonder, did you have a story that you would like to share with us today? How God maybe has changed your heart, or you can talk about maybe your testimony, and how you came to know and had a relationship with God.
Sure, I absolutely love to tell how I first started to follow Jesus. I was raised in a broken home. My dad had multiple affairs and left our family when I was in the second grade. I didn't have any inkling that anything was wrong until one night in the middle of the night, I heard my parents fighting and I heard my dad hitting my mom. And I got up and I peeked out my door and saw it all happening. And then the next morning, he had all of his suitcases packed and he left. He didn't stay gone. He came back and left again and came back and left again for about the next 3 years until I was in the fifth grade. And then when I had my birthday in my fifth grade year, the divorce was final and my dog ran away in the middle of a snowstorm, both on my birthday. It was not a very happy birthday night.
Oh,
But I felt really kind of out of sorts because back then, I mean, this was a while ago, in my classroom, there were not any other students except for one who didn't have their parents still married. And I felt often like an outcast and kind of embarrassed at times when there would be a function. I remember one Christmas pageant, my mom and dad came separately because they weren't together anymore, but my dad showed up drunk because not only did he have a problem with women, but he had a problem with drinking. And I was always very embarrassed about it and felt like I just really didn't have a good dad. And I wanted a good dad. And I was jealous of kids who did have their family intact and had fathers who were involved in their life and didn't embarrass them. Well, fast forward to when I was in the ninth grade, a new family moved across the street from us. We lived out in the country on the outskirts of Lansing on a little corner, and kitty corner from us was an old white church with a big tall steeple and a little parsonage, the house that the pastor lived in that sat next to it. And a new pastor and his wife moved in, and she kind of took me under her wing. She saw me out in my yard throwing a baseball up by myself and catching it because I was kind of a latchkey kid at that point. And she invited me to join the church softball team. And that was her way of just getting to spend time with me. She just opened her life to me, her very ordinary life in her very ordinary house, and had me come over after school. I would do my homework there. I would help her fold laundry, help watch her kids. And it was through her that I first learned about Jesus. And she told me that God could be a father to the fatherless. And I responded to the gospel and began to follow him. And I still keep in contact with her to this day. She's still one of my mentors. She's well into her 70s now. But it was through her that I caught a glimpse not only of wanting to be a Christian, but wanting to do ministry and wanting to help other people go through things that I had gone through, because she was raised in a home that was broken. And so in a little way, I like to say that she was going and finding her old self and doing something to help them.
Right.
And that happened with me when my kids were older, especially my youngest. He often brought home kids who were from a broken home and trying to navigate what that looked like. And I could honestly look them in the face and say, I know exactly how you feel. Now, I have to end the story by saying that the last 20 years of my life, my dad completely turned his life around. He fell one time when he was drunk and broke his back on a Saturday night in his apartment, and he wasn't found until he didn't show up for work on Monday. And so he was taken to the hospital for his broken back, but he also joined AA. And by the time he passed away, it had been decades since he had a drink. He asked for forgiveness from my mom and myself and my brother. And he even went back in time and looked up everybody he felt like he'd ever wronged and asked for forgiveness. And so we had a great relationship the last 20 years of my life, or of his life, before he passed away. And I just love how God brought that full circle. That doesn't always happen in people's lives, but it was something I had been praying for decades.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it ended.
Wow. I love that. Well, what a blessing. I mean, two things there, that you actually can help people through struggles that you've had, that God allows that. He works the greater good out of the bad thing. And the other part of it is that you had answered prayer, and that your dad became a Christian. And becoming a Christian sometimes does mean a complete, life change. And the fact that he did that and went back and asked forgiveness, he died a whole man, right? I mean,
yeah,
he was a different person, which I love. So, would you like to leave any closing statements at all about your faith with women? What would you want to say if you had to say one thing?
I had it said to me once, and I've never forgotten it, that your life is a sermon and people are watching you preach. Do they see the gospel through your life? It's even like in the situation with my dad. I mean, it would have been really easy for me to be bitter and angry and just hate him and want to cut him out of my life. And I often thought about that when I was younger and growing up. I thought, he'll never walk me down the aisle. He'll never know his grandkids. But God treats us differently. He forgives us no matter how much we sin and how much we hurt him. And so I decided to love and forgive my dad even before he ever asked for it, because it wasn't for a couple years until he decided to ask for forgiveness for all the things he'd done to the people he'd hurt, especially his family, who was the closest. But I treated him like he was the greatest dad in the world, even during the days that he wasn't and he was drunk. And I just feel like that's a really good way to live, that your life is a message and people are watching you preach.
No, I love that. That's really a very, very good thing to remember, that's really the only way you can be a light. But I mean, the fact that you had enough grace to be able to do that is a God-given gift. I think you can have the grace to do that, because that was really, really hard. But anyway, thank you, Karen. We enjoyed you connecting with us today and taking the time out. And I know these are very short, but and also you're an author. Do you have an upcoming book that you're working on?
I do. I have a book coming out next summer with my co-author Ruth Schwenk. It's on living your priorities, and it's called The Love Your Life Project.
The Love Your Life Project. Okay, we'll be looking for that. And thank you for watching Sparkle, and thank you for joining us, Karen.